All right. So our next article is how to keep the bankers and investors on your side during a recession. So this is kind of so they kind of list them out as bullet points here. Institute a company-wide decision-making process and create a roadmap. So they want, I guess they're wanting you to show the bankers or your investors what you're planning on doing in your post COVID-19 reopening, or during a recession. If somebody's reading this after COVID-19 and you're headed into a recession, create a roadmap, prepare for a range of
I
situations
want to
using.
interject there real quick just on that first one is that um, is so often what I see with small businesses is that they don't have a roadmap or, a roadmap like this um, is in a company-wide way of making decisions. Um, it's part of what we talk to clients and businesses about, what we say having a planning model for your business, right? And what I find is that so many businesses don't have that until they have to have a discussion with their lender. And sometimes it's to get a loan in the first place, or sometimes it's like in a situation like they're writing about here, where maybe you already have debt outstanding, and you might be running up against debt covenant problems or whatever, right? And so then the company rushes to create that process or that document just to show the lender. And so my advice or my thought on that is that the lenders can smell that, right? They realize when you put something in front of them that doesn't actually tie to how you operate the business, they see that. And that's often like they start, when they start picking apart your forecasts and really questioning hard what you're doing, it's usually because they realize that you created that just for them, and that you don't actually operate your own business by that forecast. And so I think, on this topic, I would say, and it's something that's really near and dear to us because we consult on this exact issue with our clients. This is one of the main things that we try to get our clients to do, and that we advise clients on, is having a planning model and a planning process in place at all times, so that when you do have these discussions with lenders and investors, you can have them in a way that is genuine and not fabricated just for that discussion. You can show them, here's the model we actually operate our business by, and have that discussion with them. And I think that's a lot different than throwing one together just to show them in hopes that they might give you money, or that they might not call your debt because you're running on tough times.
All right. The next one is demonstrate what you've already done. And I think this speaks to what Ty just said. If you have a planning model, or you've done planning, or you're using some kind of metrics by you running the business, show them that you've already used it, or show them that you've paid back the recent debt or lending and how you did so financially. This third one here is be a credible voice to your partners. And I think this comes from what Ty was just, if you have a relationship with your banker or investors and you've shown them over time that you're a credible voice and you speak with facts and the backup, then that helps. When your capital partners offer help, accept it. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer. And when the time is right, be ready to go on the offensive. And I think they're talking about asking for funding here in this one.
I'll
So
back up and comment on that. You know, accept help from your capital partners. It seems like a no-brainer, but so often I see entrepreneurs playing the cynical move of, oh, we just want money from those folks. We don't want to listen to them. So, and I think kind of the point that the article was making is that, the people that you're asking money from are business people. They work with a variety of businesses. They have a variety of experience. And so it's kind of foolhardy to just, you know, try to have very one-sided conversations of just trying to get money from them, and not uh, taking advantage of the advice that they may have as well. Um, when you have access to that kind of experience, and people you if people follow our podcast or our show regularly, you've probably heard me say in the past, with the caveat that understanding that their advice or their expertise may be very narrow or very specific to the way they come at a problem. But um, still, I mean, I think in my mind, it's like take advantage of all the experience and expertise you can. Just be aware of where it's coming from. Be aware of who's giving it to you and what the context and limitations to what you're getting in that advice would be. But yeah, I think as obvious as it may seem, I see over and over again entrepreneurs who don't do that, who take money or resources from lenders or investors and then really don't take an opportunity to utilize them for business advice.
Here's the other thing I think is really relevant to add here. One of the other kind of points you were talking about, AJ, was sort of managing the relationship with your banker and keeping in touch with them. And I just want to say, as somebody who's been through this whole rigmarole with bankers before and having issues, that one of the mistakes that I made and that I would advise other businesses not to make is to not get overly reliant. If you feel like you have a friend that's a banker, or if somebody that you've worked with for a long time and maybe you've established a history where you feel like, hey, everything I've done is right. Sometimes in larger banks and whatnot, the person pulling the strings isn't the person you're talking to. And so often you end up feeling like you have an ally on the bank side, and then a change up of who's of management above that person, or even just a change up in how that department is run leads to an entirely different conversation than you had. And so it's good to have a generic plan that will work to even somebody new at the bank, because it's always going to be a change up of the guard. And so whatever plan you have has to be generic enough that you can get someone new on board quickly, because you can't always trust your longtime banker, And so
I think that goes hand in hand with what I was trying to get at with understanding the limitations of the person you're talking to and their advice is I think another way of kind of saying what you're saying, Charlie, is seeking advice from your lending partner or whatever representative of the bank that you're talking to, seeking their professional advice or their experience. Don't confuse that with negotiating with them as if they have the authority to speak for the lender or the bank or the institution as to the way things are going to be in your partnership, right? But that's totally different, right? So if I'm talking to a relationship officer at a bank that I'm working with, and I know they have a lot of experience, and I value their experience, and I'm seeking their advice, I don't want to mix that up with thinking that as I'm talking through their advice, that I'm actually negotiating with them as if they have the authority to make decisions on behalf of the bank in our particular relationship. They probably don't. It depends on the circumstances, but in most cases they probably don't.
I actually have a story. I was auditing 401k plans, and this poor company had, done the pay plan through their payroll provider. And so what the payroll provider did was they sent out one of their sales teams to do this 401k service for the company. And of course, the company was relying that the 401k expert was going to be on their side or give them relevant information. Unfortunately, the salesperson was a salesperson and talked him into basically allowing anybody that worked at this company to have access to this 401k, which immediately meant like within the first year, they were subject to audit because they had gone over the threshold of that amount. And you're not talking about a small fee for a 401k audit. And it really put the small company in jeopardy because they had basically relied on the service provider that was selling them a service to give them straight information without consulting somebody else that would have known better. And so I think, that relationship goes both ways, where you need to really hedge your bets, especially when you're buying a service or you're being served, your partner is gaining something off of that.
Yeah, that's what I've experienced. The salespeople will always tell you anything that you want to hear in order to get the product sold. And a lot of times you don't realize you're talking to a salesperson until it's far enough along in the engagement that you realize, okay, this person's, this guy's trying to sell me something. Somebody I thought was on my side is, like you said, a salesperson.